Hare Krishna. Question: what are ISKCONs views on adoption, in vitro fertilization and surrogacy? Answer: ISKCON as an organization is based on the Vedic scriptures as given by Srila Prabhupada, and regarding specific contemporary issues, there may not be any explicit statements in scripture directly, and sometimes some technologies may be developed later that there may not be statements directly in Prabhupada's books also. So as a movement, we don't have any body which gives official positions on such issues. This will happen as ISKCON grows. So I am not in the position to tell about any official ISKCON position, but I can talk about the inferences that can be made based on what we have in scripture. So firstly, with respect to adoption, especially in situations where the parents, where a couple have not been able to have children for a long time, adoption has abundant precedents, and definitely the desire to have children is a very natural human desire, and we see that concern repeatedly in scripture, whether it is Dashrath Maharaj wanting a son, or whether it is Pandu wanting a son, or there are scriptures are filled with the sages having concern for children and then working towards getting the children, working often in many extraordinary ways. So those extraordinary ways could involve things like doing yajna and elaborate sacrifices specifically for kame, as it's a putra kameshti yajna. The word putra is often used in an inclusive sense to refer to progeny, and or it can also involve something like the practice of niyoga, wherein for whatever reason the husband is not able to beget a child, then the wife the wife is asked to unite with either some god, or as has happened with Kunti. She had children at the instruction of Pandu through the Devatas, Indra, Vayu and Dharma, that is Yamaraj. So the point is that there are examples of quite substantial measures being done to get children. So it's not that if we are not able to get children, we just have to accept it as Krishna's will. Yes, ultimately nothing happens because of Krishna, without Krishna's will. But there are precedents of people in the Vedic, in the scriptures, doing special efforts to try to get children. So now we live in a current age where many of the measures that the kings and others in the past used are not accessible to us because of me not having, say, Brahminical sages who can chant the mantras, or whatever reasons. So there is Paravidya and there is Aparavidya, and the Paravidya is transcendental knowledge, Aparavidya is material knowledge. So in today's world, the medical technology is often science in general science, especially through its technology aspect, is doing what Karmakanda would do in the past. So many of the material needs and desires of people, which were satisfied through the system of Dharma, Artha, Kama, are now being satisfied through science and technology. So the principle remains the same, although the method of course is different, and in general the method that were used in the past were more harmonious with spiritual principles, and the method that are used now are not harmonious with spiritual principles. They may be directly disharmonious also, or rather how harmonious or disharmonious they are, we will have to evaluate. So with this background, certainly, as I said, adoption, there are abundant precedents. Kunti herself was given by her father to another king because he did not have a child. Dashrath Maharaj gave his daughter Shanta to Rompad Maharaj. So we have Mahabharata, Ramayana, both we have examples of children being given and being adopted. And once they are adopted, they are considered to be children of their adopted parents itself. Prutha in fact changed her name to Kunti because then eventually she was connected with Kunti Bhoj. So the connection is quite serious, quite formal, and it is fully accepted. So if devotees are not able to have children, to adopt a child, and of course to whatever using our God-given intelligence, whatever discretion we can exercise so that we adopt a proper child, that we can do. So now moving onward to other things like say in vitro fertilization and surrogacy. So now sometimes some people have concerns that we would like to have our own lineage continuing, and having our own lineage continuing means that we would like to have our own, in today's language you may say genes, or in the past people would talk about our own seeds continuing, our dynasty continuing. So that's why people may not want adoption, they may want our own, and that's why they may prefer something else. Adoption is definitely better because it is entirely natural, it is very benevolent also, because children who might otherwise be unsheltered or orphaned, they get shelter, and they also get the opportunity to, if they are being adopted by devotees, to move onwards in their spiritual journey towards Krishna. But if such other concerns are there, then in IV fertilization or surrogacy, some people might consider that. So now among these two, surrogacy is actually much more disruptive and intrusive, I would say disharmonious, than IV fertilization. IV fertilization essentially involves there are technicalities, but essentially what it involves is that for whatever reason, if the egg is not able to develop in the mother's womb into embryo, then it is taken out and it is separately developed. Now we see something similar being done in the Mahabharata when Gandhari has an apparent miscarriage. So it's not exactly the same. It's like her, because of whatever reasons, the embryo came out before the time of pregnancy, of delivery, and then it seemed like stillborn, but then Vyasadeva arranged for it to be kept in an external situation, in an external conducive environment, and then from that the Kauravas were born. So in this case, if we see, it was Gandhari in a fit of anger hit her womb because the pregnancy had gone on for a very long time, or rather not exactly that the pregnancy had gone on for a long time, but that Kunti had delivered before her first child, before Kunti had begot her first child before her. So the point is that it was motivated by anger, but still Vyasadeva intervened, and the principle was there was union, but after that there was growth, some growth, but when there was interception in the growth, so the remaining growth was done outside. Sometimes some devotees compare that to cloning. Now there are the way one embryo gave 100 Kauravas. Now that is some level of comparison to cloning, but actually cloning involves exact duplication, and the 100 Kauravas are not exactly duplicated. So the example of the Pandavas, of the Kauravas, would be more of IV fertilization, more similar to IV fertilization and less to cloning. But either way, the point of having the child develop outside the embryo develop outside the womb, there is some precedent for that, and especially if there is some biological impairment because of which there is infertility, and then that is something which can be resorted to. Now surrogacy involves crossing several lines. There are ethical lines, and there are emotional lines, and then there are spiritual lines also which are crossed, where basically it's a womb is hired, and whereas in IVF fertilization it's basically an external device is used, external conducive environment as it is used to develop what is called a test tube baby. But in surrogacy it is a woman's womb is basically used, and naturally if a woman has begotten the child, has carried the child in the womb, then after that whose child it belongs to and on what basis this is to be decided. These are all very serious ethical issues, and this involves now what is unnatural, what is natural. The definitions of that may change over time, but we do know that there are certain levels of intrusion into the order of nature which are quite jarring. And as I said that in the case of surrogacy, without getting into technicalities here, there may be different ways in which the surrogate mother may get the embryo, get the egg, and thereafter the pregnancy may take place. But the point is that because there is a complete separation, involvement of an entirely different person, and then once that different person is involved, then there is that person becomes that child that is born becomes that woman's child. Then to consider that child to be one's own child, that is quite it is a whole thing is very messy. So as I said, emotionally, ethically, to use a body as a to use a womb, or to reduce a person to a womb, and then to use a womb simply as a incubator for developing a embryo, that is quite dehumanizing. And again, there are no precedents for this. There are precedents where, say, a king, like when Gandhari was pregnant for a long time, Dhritarashtra, his maid servants, and then Vidura was born. But then that Vidura is considered not to be Gandhari's son, he is considered to be just Dhritarashtra's son, but it is through that maid servant. So it's by no stretch can it be compared with surrogacy. The concept of surrogacy involves a lot of, as I said, ethical, emotional lines are being crossed, and because there is no precedent and because it involves dehumanizing a person, it is best that it be avoided. And devotees can, as I said, so on the continuum, adoption, there is absolutely no problem, and adoption, devotees can definitely do that if that's what is required for getting children. But on the continuum, in vitro IVF fertilization would be in between, and surrogacy would be at the bottommost, and in terms of it being unnatural, and it's best to avoid that. Of course, again to repeat, there are no clear-cut directives which we have for many of these ethical dilemmas, and it is not just in the Krishna consciousness movement, but in general, when the scriptures don't give direct statements about certain issues, then there are different devotees may come up with different positions based on their understanding of scripture and their understanding of what is important in the letter as well as the spirit of scripture. And so that's why there may be different positions, and what I have given is my understanding based on the inferences that I have drawn from scripture. Thank you.